Could you please explain what possessed you to do that?
I don't know. I think it was probably maybe a COVID thing, partially. I reckon when the world shut down and I couldn't play music anymore, maybe it was for the first time I properly appreciated how much I liked it and missed it. I don't know, I also sort of think, like, you kind of feel as though there are certain rhythms and rules that you should follow in life. And then maybe the older you get, the less you realise, the more you realise how those sort of guardrails aren't as important as you thought they were. Like when you're in school or whatever, you kind of fall into this pattern of behaving, like you feel like you have to get a certain set of exam results and go and do a certain thing and then finish that thing, and then that's the thing that will lead you to the next thing. And I guess it's easy to forget that you sort of have a bit of agency in your own life and you don't necessarily just have to plod the same trodden course. But I guess there's something a little bit scary about that. I always feel like, I don't know, maybe if I could do my 20s again, maybe I feel like I wouldn't be as deferential and I wouldn't feel as, I wouldn't say pressured, because I certainly don't think you guys pressured me into doing anything. I think you were really encouraging about pretty much whatever I wanted to do. But maybe it took me a while to actually have the confidence maybe to do something else. I don't know, I feel like I've always sort of suffered a bit with a sort of perfectionism and not wanting to kind of fuck up and do the wrong thing and be, I guess a bit of a perfectionism. But you were an eldest child as well. Maybe it's an eldest child thing. I don't know what you think.
Possibly, but what you did was very alien to me and your mum, wasn't it? Because we are both medical background, so we've done exactly as we were told to do.
Yeah.
You pass your exams, you go on to the next grade, you become a house officer, senior house officer, registrar, you work your way up. There is a ladder, there is a path, provided you pass the exams and keep your nose clean, you get to your final position. So we've never had to take that chance, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
That you've taken. So that will always slightly worry us about you.
But I feel like you were slightly worried maybe before I started the music. I remember you saying to me things a lot like we weren't quite sure why you immediately wanted to jump into being a teacher, and you said a few times, you know, if you wanted to go and try and do something creative or whatever, you should do it. I remember do you remember saying that to me?
Yeah, I do. I don't know whether I meant that or not.
Oh, really?
At the time. No, I think I did. I think we both incredibly admire you for doing it, because it's something that's way outside our experience. And of course, we live through you to some extent, don't we? You're doing the sort of things that maybe if we'd had a bit more guts, we might have tried ourselves. Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel like that?
Yeah, you do sometimes, don't you? I mean, I did a bit of acting at uni, and then I did, you know, the stand-up and the after-dinner speaking. So I sort of gave myself a life outside medicine as well.
Yeah, but you kind of kept both. So you had the creative stuff, I feel like, and maybe you were able to scratch that performance itch. But then you also had kind of the job, you know what I mean? The job that you could rely on.
Absolutely.
And you always said that you kind of, I don't know, it feels different, because when I was teaching and doing music at the weekend, I wasn't really getting much satisfaction for the teaching, and it increasingly came to feel like a bit of a prison that I was wondering how I was going to break out of. I remember thinking about doing it to 65 and then retiring, and that thought kind of filled me with dread.
Yeah.
But you never seem to feel that about.
Well, I love my
doctoring.
job. I mean, I love my job. Medicine, it takes over your life. It's an absolutely fantastic career. I wouldn't change it for a second. It's a job that you absolutely love. Never once did I wake up in the morning and think I don't want to go into work. But I would not do teaching. I mean, you once described teaching to me when you were teaching at Stockport Academy. I think you said it was 45 minutes of behaviour management and 5 minutes of poetry. You know, it's appalling.
Yeah,
Teachers are leaving in their droves, man.
Yeah.
I don't envy at all.
And nurses. I wonder who's going to actually do any work though, because surely as a society we do need people to do things that are important. I don't know if maybe there's something about the modern world that makes people feel like they can't surrender themselves to vocations like they used to. You've always, I feel like growing up with you, you always spoke about medicine as a vocational thing, and that you felt you didn't only like the job, but you kind of took a lot of pride from the thought of doing something and contributing something real to people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely right. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered what the money was. The money was very good, don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't have mattered about the money. You don't pick it for the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'd wanted to be an English poet or something, I wouldn't have gone into medicine just for the money. It was definitely for the job. I loved the job. Anyway, we're getting a bit ethereal here. So tell us about...
I think we want to be a bit ethereal.
Oh, you want to be a bit ethereal?
Yeah, definitely.
But we want to talk about music, don't we?
Yeah, we do want to talk about music.
Me and your mum loved music. We played music
Yeah.
to you when you were younger. We had our own heroes in music. I mean, what were your musical influences?
Well, I guess it was all the stuff that you played me, probably. I think it took me a while to come round to some of it. I didn't like Bob Dylan for years, for example, which I know was always your favourite. But I think I got there in the end. I think Bob Dylan's the guy that you discover when you first sort of begin to think about songwriting, because he's the perfect person to kind of sit there and learn to play the guitar through, because he only ever plays 3 chords and all of the songs are fairly easy to sing.
Yeah.
So you can do that. I remember strumming away in my bedroom for years on those songs. You must have heard me though, because your study was always right around the corner.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I loved that. Loved it.
Yeah. So I feel like that. I don't know. I think I've always had a pretty eclectic taste, and I think I probably admire the mechanics of a great song more than anything else. So more than a great voice or more than a great stage presence, I think it's about a great song. So maybe the people I like the most these days might even be like the Bee Gees, Ben and Bjorn from ABBA, Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen and Paul Simon, and those really great songwriters, I think.
Well, and what's the song bit you like? Is it the music you like, the production you like, the lyrics you like? What makes a good song?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's something malleable about really great songs, I think. You know, like, Shakespeare's always being readapted, and you can take a Shakespeare play and you can put it into any sort of new context, and you can film it with any sort of cast, and you can transpose it into any sort of time period or adapt it in any sort of way you want. I feel that's because the source material is so good that you can kind of do anything you want with it. And I think you get a lot of that with Dylan's music. You're obviously getting people covering it in different ways all of the time and doing gospel versions or disco versions or full band versions or stripped back versions. And because the source material is so good, it kind of doesn't matter. It can withstand all of that creative pressure and still be a great song. But I think, like all of these things, pinning down what makes great art great is really difficult. And I think you lose something ineffable in the process of trying to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's a bit like dissecting comedy, isn't it? Like you lose some layer of magic somewhere in trying to decide what makes it so good. I guess it just speaks to something subconscious within us a lot of time, that kind of stays with us over years for some reason that we're not really quite sure of.
Okay, and now that you're with Rob Jones and the Restless Dream and you're writing your own stuff, how do you write your great songs then? What do you think of first? The melody first, the lyrics first, the concept first? How do you start writing a song?
Well, usually you kind of hear a snatch of something somewhere else and it might germinate in a slightly different direction. Like you'll half hear something and maybe the first few notes of a phrase, and then your brain will kind of immediately want to take that somewhere else, almost like complete the sentence. And then you might have a beginning of a kind of a melodic idea, and then it feels a bit like, people have compared it in the past to like Ouija boarding, when they sort of use that thing to pretend that they're talking to spirits from beyond.
Yes,
and they
I do
kind
know
of like
what a Ouija board is.
Murmur things. So it's a bit like that. You're kind of murmuring melodies, I suppose, and getting closer and closer to the shape of a song. And then definitely later, you sort of decide what you want it to be about and put words to it. And that's always the hardest bit, I think. Have you ever written a song?
Never.
Never?
Not in my life.
What about your material on stage though? Because how do you come up with that? I guess they're anecdotes mainly, but how do you feel as though you get to a point where you feel like a story is going to work or not?
Yeah, I suppose that's a good question. I mean, a lot of my stuff was stuff that actually happened, and then I've exaggerated it or picked out the funny bits of what was may have been a tragic situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of it is jokes that I've adapted to pretend it happened to me in the hospital, things like that. So it's a bit like what you're doing, isn't it? You're sort of filtering things from a whole variety of sources, and then it's how you meld it that makes it funny, or in your case makes it a good song.
But you get to try yours out in real time, I suppose, as well. You kind of get feedback immediately, and you know from one gig to the next what's going to work and what isn't.
Oh, absolutely
it's a bit
right.
Darwinian.
Absolutely right. I mean, the fact that it's always amazed me that you can play in some club or pub somewhere and nobody's listening. You know what I mean? That would absolutely destroy me as a comic, wouldn't it? If the audience weren't listening, I've died on my arse. But with you, they can still come up to you at the end of it and say, "Oh, thanks, you were great."
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. But it doesn't help you with that initial creative part. I feel like with music, you're kind of writing the song in a dark room on your own, and then you present it as something finished to an audience. Whereas when I hear stand-ups, I knew that you weren't a stand-up necessarily, but it was a similar sort of thing. When they talk about bringing an act together, it's almost like they go up on stage with what they think might be funny, and then over the course of night after night, they are able to whittle it away to the pure funniness.
That's true.
Which you don't really get a chance to do as a songwriter.
Yeah, but it's interesting. One of my favourite songs that you do is Wherever We Go. And I've looked back through some of your recordings of that early on, and it has changed over time until you released it. So was it audience reaction that changed that, or just your maturing as a songwriter?
I don't think so, because you don't really get audience reaction. You can get people coming up at the end and saying, "Oh, we liked that song," or "It was good." But it's not like you can hear the audience responding to different bits of it differently. No. So you can't think, "Oh, they really liked the bridge, but they didn't like verse 2, so I'll change verse 2. Yeah. You've got to sort of present it to them. Yeah. I don't know. That's why I feel like it's a different thing, really. And I get why people. I think it's time, though. I think that the thing with that song, it was time. Like, I wrote it a while ago, and then I tried to record it, and we just couldn't really make it sound right with the band. And then I just sort of forgot about it, and then I came back to it and kind of rewrote it. But I think the only reason I rewrote it was because it was kind of 3 years had passed, and maybe I just sort of impulsively felt like there were things that I could do with it now that hadn't occurred to me previously. Like a lot of these things, I think it just basically depends on kind of when you push the button and release them.
Yeah.
Like it could be one song in 2015, but if you just left it another couple of years and had another go at it, you could put out something completely different.
Yeah, what I've noticed with you is that over the years, watching you progress with your songwriting, you have become a bit more country, haven't you?
Do you think?
Yeah, I think you're a bit more country.
I'm
Where
trying to
does
get
that
away
come
from that a bit. I don't really know. I don't think it's country, or at least I hope. It's not like...
No, it's modern country, if you know what I mean.
Do you think? I think that's worse.
Oh, God.
Like, well, I kind of hate the modern country stuff.
Oh, no.
A bit. I hope what I try to lean a bit more towards is kind of that sort of Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen-y. Like, there are shades of country in it, but hopefully it doesn't sound like Nashville, and it's not all about pickup trucks and cowboy hats and fishing and things.
Yeah. I mean, I love your music.
You always like country music. I know you used to play me tons of John Prine and Jerry Jeff Walker.
Yeah, but not at your age. I mean, I think country music comes to you later in life, isn't it? Because country music the lyrics anyway, tend to be about life experience, don't they? Yeah. So they're things that you have to grow into. And when you're young, you haven't had your dog leave you, or your pickup truck not start, or your wife have an affair. Do you know what I mean? So I think that comes later in life, country music. So I'm surprised that you've sort of got into it so early.
People are really into it. It's having like a renaissance in the UK particularly. Yeah. There's a whole new brand of it, which I think is really overproduced and kind of a bit naff. I kind of worry about, I feel like if you're an English person writing music, and I think I probably do cross over the line in the wrong direction quite often, but it's definitely a conscious thing for me that I'd like to not sound like a parody of an American person, which I think I probably did.
No, honest to God, you don't. Well, you do sing in an American accent, don't you? Your actual voice when you sing is 100% American.
Yeah.
Your pronunciation. And singers have said that before. Lots of English singers.
Yeah, Elton John sings and Mick Jagger sings.
They've always said that it's, for some reason, it gives the vowels a better sound, doesn't it?
The rounding on the vowels, it's easier to sing like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really know why that is.
Right.
I think it's a physiological thing, but I think it's probably cultural as well, because you soak up the singers that you've grown up liking.
No, I think that's right.
And also, I think my actual accent is a bit. I've always kind of hated my own. You know, when you hear your voice on recordings and things, I've never liked my accent. I think it's a weird. It's like half northern, half not, and it doesn't sound natural to me for some reason.
All right.
I couldn't do like the Mancunian Oasis thing. I don't have a strong regional sense of identity.
No.
Which I don't think you do either.
I don't know. I think I grew up in Chester, so we used to put on a Liverpool accent to make us sound a bit harder. But I tend to take on the accent of the people I'm speaking with, you know what I mean? So if I go to Ireland, I start speaking an Irish accent with my relatives. If I go to Liverpool, I get a bit more Scouse again, you know? So, yeah, I think you've got a bit of that.
We've always been pretty neutral as a family, though, I think. None of us are particularly Boltonian, despite having lived there for most of my life. Correct. I know that you haven't.
No.
The Chester accent's a weird one anyway. They kind of sound like nothing.
Yeah, it is. It's completely inept, the Chester accent. The other thing is nobody likes the way they sound. You know that, don't you? Because you hear your own voice through your skull bones, don't you? So it sounds different than when you hear it on a tape recording. So everybody's shocked when they hear themselves speaking. The other thing that I wonder about with your songs, and that latest album of yours, Stars, which I absolutely love. I think the music is superb and the production is absolutely superb. The lyrics intrigue me though and worry me slightly because there's an immense amount of sadness runs through all your songs, isn't there? Some of the lyrics like where I go for my dreams to die, I just wish I had something to believe in. There's so many lyrics that have an overwhelming sense of sadness or non-fulfillment, or I mean, where's that coming from then? Are you an unhappy person deep down? No,
I don't think so. I think everybody kind of experiences. Well, I think that if you're not a little bit unhappy, I think you're mental. Like, I don't really understand anybody that just walks through life and kind of doesn't consider any of or doesn't feel a bit glum every now and again. I feel a bit like, I don't know, I think definitely the last few years have been a bit weird because I had a life that felt like it was going in sort of one direction. And even though I didn't love that direction, at least it felt like it had a bit of a purpose and a bit of a structure. And I suppose like abandoning that when you're 30 to like be a singer-songwriter, like it is objectively laughable. Like it's the stuff of, like it's David Brent, isn't it? It is a David Brent thing to do, which is kind of scary and you don't really know where that's going to go. And then obviously you get tons of time to sort of think. And I think I'm definitely somebody that could be prone to an existential crisis every now and again. But I don't know. I've always been quite a deep thinker about things, but then I think I just about managed to maintain a sense of perspective that helps pull me out of it. And I'm also not very good at talking about it, so maybe it kind of seeps into the lyrics as sort of a way of like sublimating it a little bit. I'm sure if I had a therapist, that's probably what they'd say. But I don't spend the day like depressed. No. I mean, I do sometimes, some days, but I assume everybody spends some days, or do they not? I don't know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so. Okay, the other thing about your lyrics, and I think this is something to do with the fact you did English literature at Oxford, they're incredibly ethereal and poetic. I mean, the kids who are making big impressions nowadays with their songs are talking about real life things, real life relationships, real life people that they describe. It's always women talking about the last awful boyfriend they had, you know what I mean? And yet yours are up on some poetic level like that. Do I need a degree in English literature to get into your lyrics, do you think?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're very poetic, and sometimes they're impenetrable. I can't even understand what you're trying to say sometimes. You live in worlds that don't really exist. That one of your songs on the Stars is about some Saint Maria. Who's Saint Maria?
Yeah, I don't really know. With that one, I think it was definitely... I don't know, because it's weird trying to write something like that, because you don't really... I think... You never really know where this stuff is coming from. Like, you don't sit down and pre-think it, do you? You just kind of write what you write.
Yeah.
You must. Have you ever written a poem or a piece of fiction or a song? No. I think you must have done, because I think that you're quite a kind of an art. I know that you did science and you did medicine and stuff, but I still think you're kind of a bit of an arty thinker. Well, I don't think Mum is, so... Yeah. I imagine one of you is.
No, you're right. My strongest subjects at school were English. There's no doubt about that. My English teacher was amazed when I went over to that side of the room and picked science. But that's because I wanted to be a doctor. But yeah, so I understand that a little bit.
Because if somebody gave you a blank canvas and some paints and pencils and told you to paint something, if you think about what that would physiologically feel like, you'd kind of just pick up the brush and the pencil and you'd probably just sort of do it, and you'd just see kind of what happened at the end, right? You wouldn't, and I think this is the case with kind of everything we do and say. The conscious mind doesn't get involved that often, I don't think. I think it's much more a case that we kind of channel whatever's been brewing for a while, and it just sort of emanates out. Like, I don't think it's not like building IKEA furniture. Like, you just kind of, it almost comes to you word by word, line by line, and often you kind of then have to try and make sense of it afterwards. Or at least with some of them, I feel like they sort of come out from somewhere, and then you can then go and give them a bit more shape and a bit more sense. But with that song, I felt like because the chord progression was very kind of dreamlike and it never quite resolves in the verse, when the lyrics came out like that, I deliberately didn't really want to interfere with them, and I wanted them to kind of just be. And even though they are a bit weird, and I don't really understand what they mean either, they're kind of... Because it's just imagery, right? It's like if you read a poem by T.S. Eliot, you're not going to understand what it means on a conscious level, but hopefully some of the imagery kind of evokes something somewhere else.
So do you understand the concept of a muse? Do you know what a muse is?
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell defined a muse as not being other musicians, but something inside yourself. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I suppose. I think we know, don't we, that the vast majority of what goes on in our brain isn't happening in the conscious part of our brain. We know that it's the subconscious that does a lot more of the processing of thoughts and feelings and ideas and emotions and things like that. So I think a lot of it's happening there, and it's just about trying to find a way of kind of letting that spill out sometimes without getting in the way too much. But then again, I do know what you mean. And I also think, like, we're trying to pin down what the creative process is when I don't think it is anything. I think it can happen in different ways at different times.
So you'd be happy, would you, for people to get different meanings from the same song?
I'd be happy for anybody to get any meaning from any song. I'd be happy for anyone to hear any of the songs at this point. That would be nice.
Yeah, okay.
If someone would listen to them and take them even like slightly seriously, that would be really good.
Oh no, I think some of the songs are beautiful.
I know you do, but yeah, you might be biased. Right?
Yes, I'm a bit biased,
progeny.
but at the same time I have a huge experience of music, and I find myself tapping along to you, crying at some of your songs, and I mean, Darkest Eyes, I absolutely love that. If it takes a bit of time, then so it be. Whatever that song is, I love that. The other thing that intrigues me as a man, a scientist, who has absolutely no respect for organised religion whatsoever, even though I was brought up a Catholic, I now would totally be against that. There's always a lot of biblical and religious imagery in your songs. You talk about the Stations of the Cross, you talk about Madonna, you talk about the Seven Sisters, you talk about serpents on your tongue. It's a very biblical expression, isn't it? I mean, where do you sit in this? I have this horrible feeling you might be moving towards God.
Why do you think that would be why do you have a horrible feeling about that?
Well, because I think organised religion has absolutely destroyed this bloody world. I'd hate to think that you started going to church and suddenly despising other religions because they were different to you. And even just to believe in some creative goodness that sits up there in invisible space. I mean, I just couldn't countenance that a man of intelligence
but
could
you
fall
must
for
know
that.
But millions of men of incredible intelligence have believed in God throughout history, though.
No, most scientists haven't they? Stephen Hawking, Einstein, they didn't
Einstein
believe
did.
it. No,
Einstein absolutely did.
He did not believe in
He
God.
did.
He was misquoted when he said that anything outside science must be down to God. He was actually not saying that. So
What was he
Einstein did
saying?
not believe in God.
No, I think my
Anyway.
understanding is that he did.
No,
Certainly.
well, he did not.
That he at least believed in a divine spark behind the universe.
Did he, El?
Why do you think you are so anti? Because the thing about me is that I don't know, and I just think that the older I get, the less I feel I understand almost about anything, and I find that a lot of the stuff I used to think I was kind of really certain about, I now intuitively feel like I feel less confident about almost everything now than I did when, say, I was in my 20s. Whereas you seem to just be a man that like makes a decision about how you think the world is, and then you just seem to kind of, I don't know whether maybe you just don't think. It feels to me like you haven't really thought about God since maybe you were 21, and you at 21 you decided it was bullshit.
Yes.
And then you've not questioned it again.
No, I have.
Which I just can't really understand.
No.
Because I know that you must have a brain a little like mine because I am your son.
Yes.
So I don't know why you don't obsessively think about all of these things all the time.
No, I do. But what I tend to do is I come at it from a different aspect. Instead of coming at it from the priests that looked after me when I was growing up, I'm now reading Christopher Hitchens, Stephen Fry, and reading the other side of the story, which is unbelievably more intelligent and believable than the religious side of the story. You know, that there is some creator. We now know that the universe is vast. Trillions of different galaxies with different stars, with black holes and so forth. What sort of creative genius would have come up with that bloody mess? It's ridiculous to even think that there was even an ounce of logic or creativity in that. It's just all there.
But we live in an undeniably logical universe that we're able to conceptualize and understand
through science. Exactly.
But hang on, from within what is essentially a bag of meat within our skulls. Like, you know, we can understand how the universe works and the mechanics of it. Like, the fact that it is intelligible at all, I think, is insane. You know, that these are some of the things that I can't get my head around. The fact that the universe can be understood. You know, you'd think if it was just a case of matter and energy exploding out of nowhere, if it was truly random, there wouldn't be these patterns in it that we can figure out, calculate, and then manipulate it via. And the fact that it's kind of set up, somehow there are these kind of constants, like the gravitational constant, and, you know, there are forces and rules to it, like gravity and speed and light. Like, that's not, you know, there's nothing random about that, it strikes me. I don't know, I can't even begin to explain why
science
it exists
found
somehow.
all that out, didn't it? We created the rules that were able to be applied to it by science.
No, I don't think we created them. We discovered them, though. We discovered gravity.
Oh, well, no, we've created some of them and discovered others. And we've not discovered it through religion, haven't they? Because religion has always had the answers from the very beginning. They've decided that is the truth and that is the truth. So they've never been able to adapt as time goes on.
No, but I think we're talking about different things. I think when you talk about religion, you're talking about kind of the dogmatic rules and regulations imposed by a church.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm saying is, I think science, you know, itself, if somebody was to speak for science, which is mental, there are lots of things that are completely unexplained and that feel pretty inexplicable. You know, we still don't know about the origin of the universe. We don't understand how the Big Bang happened.
I agree.
We don't understand,
but we will
the quantum level of physics.
The great thing is we will do.
Maybe.
I think so.
But even if we did, I don't think we still might not understand why anything exists rather than nothing. And while I agree that organized religion is one thing, but I don't know. It feels a bit like I'm still kind of obsessed with those questions and trying to make sense about life and what it is to be alive, whereas I don't feel as though you are.
Well, thank you very much. When I was in my 20s, I was open to all sorts of things and confident. You were very confident in your 20s that you knew everything. I was a left-wing liberal like everybody is. I was a communist when you're at university. And then as you get up to about 30, then everything starts to go to pieces.
So is that normal?
Yeah, and then when you come to my age and you're 70, then you'll have made up your mind on a vast majority of things and you'll stick to it dogmatically. So I think it'll come to you.
Because that's what a lot of the album, I think that's why there's so much sadness or uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm not really sure who I am a lot of the time and kind of what, I feel like I'm still, which feels counterintuitive because you'd think you'd probably have figured it out by now. But I kind of feel still a little bit like I'm kind of searching for an identity and not in the sort of, before you go, not in the sort of identitarian modern day politics of identity, but I still feel like I'm figuring out who I am and what I think.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's something a bit embarrassing about that. I think that's part of maybe why I feel a bit down on myself sometimes, is because I feel like I'm still flapping around in some sort of infantile state of kind of helplessness.
A lot of that's to do with your intelligence. When you're intelligent, then you get so much into your head that it's hard to make sense of it.
But I don't feel like you get much into your head.
Well, I don't now, no, because my head's absolutely full now.
Is that what
completely
happens?
Full of stuff.
It fills.
Absolutely full. And in
but
the end,
do you ever feel like, I don't know, do you ever feel like as you get older, do you feel like you become less psychologically flexible?
Yeah.
But do you like that?
Yeah, it makes life a lot easier for you.
I can imagine it makes it easier.
Because
does it make it better though?
Not only do you know who you are and what you're doing, but all your friends know as well. So, you don't have to make any adaptation to friends. They know exactly what you like and you can be yourself all the time. It helps a great deal.
I don't know what it is to be myself. I don't
you
know
will
what that
do.
means.
You will do. Don't worry about it. You will do.
Well,
then other things will distract you. Like if you have kids, you have to look after your children. You've got other things outside yourself to think about. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's probably true.
That helps. The fact is that you're in this stage of your life where it's all about you, isn't it? So again, that makes things difficult for you. So don't worry about that. I think that's all perfectly natural. I do not believe you're abnormal.
Right.
I believe
I'm slightly abnormal.
No, I don't believe it at all. I think you're entirely normal. You're distressed by it and you worry about it, but you are entirely normal, I'm sure.
Because my fear is, I think a lot of the time that I sort of couldn't have been dealt a better hand of cards in life. You know what I mean? By you guys. And how much you've loved me and kind of looked after me and supported me and sort of given me the best possible life. And then what if it just is distinctly average? You know what I mean? What if I get to the end of it and I feel like I might just go, I had a really good chance there to do something really interesting with that. And I had every chance. I have no excuses. And it was still just a bit, I still was a bit of a disappointment.
Oh, God almighty, you certainly won't be a disappointment. And again, you haven't reached the end of your life anyway, have you? Things can change.
It feels like, I don't know what it is about 35, but it feels like I've kind of reached the end of something.
Well, say the music doesn't take off, say you fall out of love with music like you did with teaching, you'll move into something else. You're such a bright kid. You'll do anything you want. You could teach, you could do law, you could do anything. Seriously, we have no worries about you in that respect.
No, I know. I think it's more that I worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but that's my biggest fear, is that I'll kind of get to the end of my life and I'll look back on it and feel sort of a bit like I didn't really give it the best shot.
Everybody has that fear. Everybody with an IQ.
You don't. I don't think you have that fear.
Well, because I've done my life and it's been fantastic. I've had a great life. Everything's been great. Lovely marriage, lovely kids, lovely job, lovely sidekick thing. Met lots of people. Everything's gone well.
Do you ever have regrets?
Yeah, that's a great question. That was one of my questions for you, but I'm not going to ask it you now because it's too miserable. What do I have regrets about? Yeah, I wish I'd not given up the piano. I wish I'd gone on with the music. That's all. That's about the only regret I've got.
That can't be the only. Is that really?
Yeah, I think that might be the only regret. I've upset a few people in my life. I'd like to go back and change that. As a doctor, you make mistakes, and I'm afraid some of those can have absolutely tragic consequences, and you've not done it out of malice or negligence, but it sometimes happens that way, and I'd love to go back and change some of that. But what can you do? I mean, as a doctor, what do you do if you've made a terrible mistake? Do you commit suicide, or what the hell are you supposed to do? The truth is that after you've made that mistake, and if you learn from it properly, then you'll be a better doctor, won't you? So you should keep going. But yeah, those are my regrets, but nothing huge.
None of them are huge, though.
No.
You don't feel like there was anything, you don't feel like there was a sense of not fulfilling any sort of potential. Because you're a very clever bloke. You obviously did great academically. You came from a great family.
Yeah.
What were your dreams for your life when you were 21?
Oh God, medicine, just to be a doctor. Well,
Seriously?
no, I'll be doing acting. I was acting, and I was thinking of giving up medicine to go into acting. And so I thought I'd just do my first year as a doctor, so that if I didn't get an acting job, then I could go and do locum work in A&E or something. But as soon as I started the medical job, I realised this was what I loved. I mean, it gives you so much in life, doesn't it, medicine? You learn so much about people, and therefore you learn so much about yourself. It's interesting. You're also doing a bit of good occasionally, you know what I mean? So it did have everything, I have to admit, and I wouldn't change it.
What about you? What about the stuff like, because I felt that you were always, you had the after dinner career as well, and you were kind of brushing shoulders with, famous people all the time.
Yeah.
And you were obviously really good at it, and people thought you were great, and even those famous people thought you were great at it. Do you ever feel like, what about that fame thing? Would you ever sort of kick yourself for not really giving that? No. You don't. Why not?
No, honestly not. No, honestly. Maybe you're right. I can't remember now, but maybe there were times when I did think, should I give it all up and go for this and be famous? But now, looking back at what fame does to people and how famous people can't go out on the street and they get mobbed everywhere they go, and their life is never their own again, and they all turn to heroin. I mean, I'm just glad I never got to that. No, seriously, I think what was great was that my comedy was a hobby rather than a job, and I suppose that's what worried me slightly, me and your mum, when you went into music. We often wondered whether making music and songwriting and producing was going to be your whole life, whether the fun of it will disappear. What I liked about what I did was I had my job, and then I did this for laughs on a weekend, whereas your music has now taken over your life, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. It does make me a bit miserable sometimes. But I think, I don't know, maybe you always think the grass is going to be greener, and then maybe it doesn't really turn out to be.
Yeah.
Because so much of my music is still music that's kind of not that creatively fulfilling, like doing the cover stuff and the wedding stuff.
Yeah.
That can be fun, but that can also be a bit of a drudge, and it can be really lonely, like the travelling and solo gigs and playing songs that you don't really care about when nobody's really listening, and and obviously like the independent music business is like, it feels great to write songs and to like produce the music, but then you get so little back, you know what I mean? You get nothing back. Maybe one day you get something back.
I just feel you're learning a great deal about life through music, aren't you? To be honest, you're meeting people, you're getting into techniques. You might go into production later in your life.
I wouldn't ever know enough about it, I don't think.
Really?
No. I think the other thing I realised, when you're kind of younger, you feel as though you could probably do pretty much anything.
Yeah.
There's that like, I think the older you get, you realise how specialised people are in what they do, and how much it takes to be actually really good at something. Like, I don't think you can be really good at like 6 different things in life. I think.
But I've seen you definitely improve. Your voice has improved over the years. Your guitar work
no
has
doubt.
improved.
Yeah.
So there's still room for improvement there,
Definitely.
isn't there? Yeah.
I think you've got to pick the things that you care about and really dedicate yourself to getting better at them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Songwriting, singing, playing.
All
So
right.
I don't think I'm great at playing the guitar or singing, to be honest. But I do think I'm getting better, and I think I could still do more to kind of maximise my own ability at both of those things.
So what are you looking for in music then? You're not. I don't believe you're ever going to be famous, Rob.
No,
I have
I
to
don't
be
think
honest
so.
with you.
Yeah.
But is there still satisfaction outside that? Well, I suppose you'd like to make a bit more money from it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So where will the satisfaction come from? Once you've realised that you're not going to be the next Ed Sheeran, where is the satisfaction coming from? Is it in doing a good job? Is it making a lot of money? Is it getting, I don't know, a famous songwriter to tell you that they loved your song and they're going to use it or something? Where do you see the satisfaction coming from in this turmoil that you're in?
Yeah, I don't really know. I really don't know, to be honest. I don't really see a way out of the turmoil necessarily. I think it's probably, I have this vision, and I don't even know if this is achievable, to be honest, but the vision that I definitely feel like I'm sort of shooting for is there are kind of like independent-y artists that exist, and I know some of them, so I know that it is real. Like that girl, do you remember Els Bailey that you saw at Property Festival?
At Property, yeah.
Yeah. So she's done all of that herself over about 10 years of kind of self-releasing, self-promoting. You know, she started out touring tiny little places, a bit like I do. And then she's built it and built it and built it through kind of online marketing, and she's got like a following now that kind of allows her to maybe go on tour once a year, put a record out once every 2 or 3 years, sell merchandise. I think she does some other stuff as well, like she hosts a radio show, and she's got various streams of like income which are all attached to her music, which kind of allows her to actually just like for that to be her life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to be a wedding singer, she doesn't have to sing Oasis in the pub or whatever, but she can make a living. I don't know what, I'm speaking for her now and I've never even met her, so
Yeah.
I'm sure half of what, sorry Els if you're watching, I'm sure half of this is bullshit, but from what I can see of her, she's been really good at like getting to the point where that can be her actual life.
Well, why don't you go meet her then? Why don't you ring her up and meet
I do.
her?
I've been in touch with her. I think I need to call her back maybe. But anyway, that's my dream. I guess it's like people talk about this 1,000 fans effect.
Yeah.
And like the general theory is if you can get 1,000 people to like what you do enough to pay you, I don't know, 30, 40 quid a year for like a vinyl and a ticket, then obviously that's 30, 40 grand a year, which is kind of a living wage.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
So
which is a pretty modest thing.
It's a fairly modest
and
thing.
I don't even know if that's realistic, to be honest.
But the thing about you is if it doesn't work, you can always adapt to something else. I honestly believe that.
I know that, but I don't know if that mindset is a bit of a barrier. I don't know if... This is one of the other things I always think about me, because I've had such a kind of a pampered life. I don't know if I have the hunger to... The people that like do stuff, they usually do it out of kind of desperation. They're kind of street fighters, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like I remember hearing this story about Sylvester Stallone selling everything he had when he had the Rocky script, and he was touting it around production companies.
Yeah.
And not only was he trying to sell them a script, but he was insisting that he'd play the lead, and nobody had ever heard of him before, so they were laughing him out of every office he walked into.
Yeah.
But he just refused. He quit his job. He sold his house, he even sold his dog to keep himself fed. And he just decided that if I have any sort of safety net, then I'm not going to commit enough to make this impossible dream come true. Wow. Whereas I don't think I'm not trying to make that sort of impossible dream come true. But sometimes I just think like, because, you know, I'm so comfortable, like I'm just going to settle for...
You're treading water a bit, maybe. But the thing is, for me and your mum, to give up what you were doing, a proper job, and go into music, that was your Sylvester Stallone moment, as far as we're concerned. Wasn't a massive Sylvester Stallone. Shall we move on to happier things? The other thing I noticed about your lyrics is the weather plays an important part in all your lyrics, doesn't it? Where have you got this obsession with weather? It's always rising for the sun, or that it's always raining, or there may be some snow, or there's stars in the sky.
Yeah. Well, the album's full of stars references because it's called Stars. And when I first thought about it, I thought there'd be a bit of a thematic through line, so that it would kind of, all of the songs would be set at a different point during some sort of universal vision of the night that I had.
Yeah.
So some of them are about like the early evening, and then it takes itself through to the rising of the sun the next day. But then when we changed the order on the record to make it more listenable,
oh, thank God,
that shape kind of fell away.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That would have been a disaster if you'd run it like morning, afternoon, evening.
Yeah, I think so. But that was the initial. But the weather, I don't know. I guess that's just the thing, that you have to give things a sense of place and time somehow. And I think the weather is kind of a universal, and it's an evocative thing.
Dylan's a big weather man, you know. Yeah. They say Dylan does more about the weather than any other songwriter. Yeah. And I thought that till I listened to your stuff.
Probably it's a bit of a placeholder as well. I still feel like it's like anything else. I still feel like I'm not. I think I'm getting a little better at writing, and especially lyrically, I feel like it's something that I'm working on. I definitely don't think I'm great at it, but I think I'm kind of hopefully trying to get more honest with it, because I think a lot of the kind of the metaphorical stuff can sometimes just be a way of obfuscating and maybe retaining a sense of, I don't know, a sense of kind of disguise a little bit. I think writing something that's really brutally honest is kind of tough.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to say what you actually think about things, I think. I don't know if you find that, but I find that whenever I have to kind of say what I really think, I often realise that I don't know what I really think. And then it takes me a while to kind of formulate it. I remember always when I have had like emotionally honest conversations with people, like when I've had like breakup conversations with people, I go into this sort of weird freeze mode where I can't really, the words just don't really come. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you've had that.
I think I know what you mean. I mean, the fact we don't really know what we feel about something, I mean, that can change from day to day, can't it? You can often have a different mood one day, just like a favourite song can change from day to day. So again, I don't think that's abnormal. The other thing about your lyrics, I guess, you talk about this metaphorical, metaphysical, whatever thing that you do. The other thing you have to do is make them rhyme, doesn't it? And sometimes I find that you've found a word that rhymes with the line before. That sort of changes what you were going to put in that line because you had to put it to rhyme.
Yeah, but that's one of the impositions of writing pop songs, isn't it? That's kind of one of the straitjackets about them. It's not like free-form, blank verse poetry where you can literally say whatever you want.
Yeah.
You are kind of constrained by things.
Yeah.
And that constraint can be good, but I mean, I don't really. I know that you think I should write lyrics more like the ones that you hear on the radio.
Yeah, I think your melody and your production is fantastic. I think the sound you make is unbelievably good. I just feel that you like I said before, your lyrics are a bit Oxford graduate in English literature. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe you should try and get a bit more. I don't know, maybe I don't know.
It's but
without
honest,
going hip hop or blooming R&B or something, I don't know how you get those honest lyrics into a nice melody, because that would sort of make, you know what I mean? It's hard to write something grotesquely savage in a lovely tune, isn't it? You know what I mean? And you do lovely tunes, so I suppose lovely tunes lend themselves better to metaphorical poetry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a songwriter.
No.
Yeah. As you know.
I think you could be, didn't you, have your time in early bands? You did music you were in a band.
Oh, I was in a band. I was just the lead singer and tambourine player. I didn't write anything, I promise you.
Was there no original material at all?
None. Absolutely none.
So I feel like, have you ever had that experience of trying to, I don't know, when you've written like maybe your wedding speech, even in your shows sometimes, there are things that do deviate away from comedy, and I feel like you do touch on like the real stuff that...
Oh, yeah.
So how do you find that?
Well, I find that easy, you see, because what's being medicine you're one of the eternal fascinations, aren't you? Medicine is like sex, death and the law. Everybody's interested in it. So you start off with a few little jokes, get the audience on your side, and then you can go on to the serious stuff. You've already got them, and they're then prepared to listen to the more, the more sad stuff, if you like, and still learn something from it and still enjoy it and still understand it. I think that's what helps. I think that's how I've got away with it, as a doctor, being funny, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's something that everybody's going to say, oh, he's a doctor, we'll just give him 2 minutes, see what he's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're quite a sensitive person. Like, you cry all the time.
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing you'll find as you get older. You tend to cry a lot. Anything to do with dads and sons makes me cry.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know what it is. It's something about being a dad, I think. You feel... I mean, not as much as mums do. Mums obviously are much closer to their kids, worry about their kids more than men do. But there is still something about being a dad which, you know, takes you out of yourself and means more than you on your own, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but do you think there's something specific about the dad and son? Obviously, you don't have a daughter, so you can't...
Oh, it'd be the same if I had a daughter.
You think it would be the same?
Oh, yeah. It's just being a parent, I think.
Do you think it's just being a general... I don't think that's true.
Oh?
Well, I think there's something about the male
the male bonding
dynamic that's different.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we understand each other better. I don't know. Maybe we see each other... I see ourselves more in our sons than we would in our daughters, I think.
Because you were closer with your dad probably than your mum.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Do you feel like, I don't know, do you feel like, would you and your dad have had, because I think sometimes as men, we kind of, and this is what I'm saying about how I find it difficult sometimes to put my finger on exactly what I feel about something.
Yes.
But sometimes it's difficult to kind of have a real conversation about anything when you're a man.
Yeah.
And especially talking to another man.
Yeah.
Not that I do it with Liz anyway.
No.
But did you feel like that with your
I noticed
parents?
that if you're having any problems, you'll always text your mum first.
Yeah.
I mean, as dads, you expect that. The kids always go to mum first if they've got a medical problem or if they're...
Yeah, but they're superficial problems.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I...
No, it was the same with my dad, I think.
I
don't think me and my dad ever spoke about anything serious till much later in life, till I was maybe in my 50s, he was in his 70s. Then we went on trips together to watch Bolton Wanderers, would you believe? But we went to Lisbon once, I remember, and we sat in a restaurant and he poured out a lot to me of real, frank truth about his relationship with his mum and his relationship with his parents, which was mind-blowing. You know what I mean? Oh, well, you know, he was sort of saying how... Well, I can't talk about that in front of a camera.
Yeah, of course you can.
Why not? I'm not talking about it, but he sort of said how his relationship with my mother had deteriorated drastically later.
Oh, with your mum? I thought you said with his mum.
Oh, no, sorry. He was talking more about his wife. He talked a little bit about his parents, but more about his wife. So... Yeah, so I understand that. I don't think you and I ever talk really frankly and deeply about important things. I think you'd feel uncomfortable with it. I think I might feel uncomfortable with it, knowing that you'd feel uncomfortable with it, if you know what I mean. So I think you're right. It's one of the cliches of life, isn't it, that men don't give their true feelings out, certainly don't give their true feelings out to another man, and certainly don't give their true feelings out to their parents. I understand that.
Yeah.
But that's changing as well, I think. I think our relationship is a lot closer maybe than my dad
do you think?
and my relationship was. Yeah, I think parents these days are closer to their kids. I'd never say my kids are my best friends. I mean, whenever somebody says that, oh, my daughter's my best friend, you know, I think, oh, God, that can't be true. Why don't you get a friend, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we share more interests now as parents and kids than my parents and kids do. Music, theatre, comedy, films, you know what I mean? Television, we talk about all those sort of things. Very, very different when I was a kid. My parents had a completely separate life to mine in terms of their music and their art and what they liked, etc.
Yeah.
But I think our family, I think, is quite close. We all go to the films together. Occasionally, we watch the same TV, you know, together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think we've got lots of cultural kind of things in common, definitely.
Yeah.
And we have similar tastes and stuff. sometimes, and I don't know if this is normal or not, sometimes when we chat, like we were at dinner last night, and it feels sometimes like we kind of just recommend things to each other. Do you ever feel like the conversation just becomes, oh, you should watch this, oh, have you read this, we really like this. And maybe sometimes that makes me feel like we're not talking about anything real.
Correct.
But then maybe that's normal, I don't know. And, you know, when I'm pressed to talk about something real, I also find that difficult. So, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just not much of a, I don't know, maybe I struggle with conversation in general.
I think you do.
Do you think I do?
I think you do.
Yeah.
I remember we went to see Bob Dylan together. I could hardly get a word out of you there or back in the car. If I asked you a question, you'd sort of say things like, what is this, an interrogation? And yet, in your blog, you did a blog, if you remember, about it, and said the most lovely things about me in the blog. Yeah. And I remember saying to Liz, I said, look at that, I couldn't get a word out of him, and now he's put it all there.
I think that's, sometimes I need to, like, process. I know that's a really wonky thing to say, but sometimes, like, I feel like I need to, I begin to understand what's happened kind of in retrospect, and I find it much easier to sit and think and then write about it than I would to actually say anything about it in the moment.
Yeah.
I also feel like, I don't know, I feel pretty envious of you, because I feel like maybe every generation thinks this, but I feel like life was just a lot better when you were my age.
Oh, I absolutely.
You know, when I hear you and your friends talk about, it feels like the world was a bigger, more exciting, more mysterious place with less rules and with more freedoms and the opportunity to do more stuff. Like, I don't know, I find a lot of life at the moment pretty soulless and mundane, which I don't think helps with the kind of occasionally feeling miserable thing. Like, when I hear you guys talk about being at university in the 70s and 80s and like going to gigs and even going on holidays and things, it just feels like we know so much about the world now that all of the mystery is kind of gone.
Oh, God. Do you know, I couldn't agree more with you. All the people in my generation will say this now, that the world's going to hell. We had a much better time. We had a much easier time. There were far less rules. There was no social media. There was nobody filming you when you were doing something dreadful to then put it up in front of your employers. You got away with murder. You had great times. I remember sleeping on the beach in Sharm el Sheikh. We went diving in Sharm el Sheikh when it belonged to the belonged to the Israelis, not the Egyptians, and we slept on the beach. And now Sharm el Sheikh is Las Vegas, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? But then if I'd talked to people from the generation before, they'd have said the same, that it was much easier in their day. I mean, like medicine, for instance, when I was coming up through the medical ladder, you could pick a job where you wanted to go. So I went from Liverpool to St Helens to Papworth in Cambridge to London, Barts, up to Bury, up to Bolton. Now, the medical students who come out of Manchester, they're all going to stay in the Manchester area. There's no picking a job down south because they all go to the Southerners. So they'll end up in Preston. That'll be the best. That'll be the most exotic they'll ever get, Preston. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. It's much, much harder. You've got far more choices to make now as kids than we had. Far more choices, far many things to be thinking about all around you. No wonder you worry that are you normal or not? because you've so many things telling you that you're not, but you are normal. In your place, I would be as confused and as worried and as baffled as you are. It was much easier in my day, and I'm sure all my generation.
There's a weird paradox to it, though, because I feel like you're right. We have more options and choices, but I also feel like none of those options and choices are much different, or none of them really seem to scratch, like, you know, when you read like a novel by Graham Greene and he's sort of in the Malay somewhere, sort of drinking in a bar. Yeah. Like, where's that? You know what I mean?
It's never going to happen.
And it's kind of like the world is like an unexplored map, and people are just kind of like forging history as they go along.
I know.
And I feel like everything's kind of been figured out already in some sense, and that the universal consensus is that, we figured all of this out and it's all a bit shit. You know what I mean? So go to Nando's.
Yeah. I think you've said that beautifully. I remember when I first qualified, me and my mates, we went to Corfu and we slept on the beach in Sadari. You know, you never worried that you were going to be attacked, murdered, raped, or anything.
And you
Life
weren't
seemed
shuttled
much
into some
more.
sort of hotel
no,
on a bus
you weren't.
with
You
your
could go and
smartphone.
sleep on a beach, and nobody would move you on. You know what I mean? The police weren't coming after you. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, I totally agree with you.
I think that's why I struggle with the lyrics sometimes as well, because I don't know. You should probably write about kind of your actual life, which is my actual life in 2025. But what do I write about? You know what I mean? I spend all day at home, and then I'll go and play a cover gig, and then I'll get home and I'll wake up the next day and I'll spend the day at home and I'll look at Instagram and then I'll go and do a cover gig. And then, so what is interesting about that? You know, it's not like Bob Dylan, like pitching up in New York in the middle of the civil rights movement, or like discovering God in the 80s, or any of that. Like, it's like living at the end of culture, right? Nobody seems to be doing anything new because everything's kind of been done. So the best that you can maybe hope for is to like readapt that really good stuff in kind of a new, slightly different, postmodern sort of way. You know what I mean? Like rock and roll and pop music has now been around for so long that it's like a solved game. You know, it's like drafts as opposed to chess. It's like we know how you can win this game, and people have already won it. So you've just got to kind of come and sort of try and pick up some pieces, and like, which is a bit depressing. Yeah,
you've put it beautifully, I have to say. You really have articulated that beautifully, and I 100%
But you've got to live through
with
the culture.
Yeah,
we've stuff.
Well, I don't know. I sort of feel when I shuffle off this mortal coil that I will have got out of the world at its very apex. That nothing else is coming out.
I think you saw the apex, and now you're just getting off
going down.
Nice.
But I guess every generation thinks that, don't they? Every generation leaves this earth thinking that's it. We saw the best of times. And
I don't think mine will. I think mine seems to think the opposite.
No, I think you'll be okay. Somebody will come up with something. You'll all run around with your virtual things on your head, running through the jungle, shooting people, living in a virtual world. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe you should write about a virtual world.
Maybe.
Don't turn to God. What you could do is maybe take up a life of crime. Go and rob a bank or something. Give yourself a challenge.
Could do some crime. And you're obsessed with death now. I think about death a little bit, but I'm not too. I do feel like I'm definitely don't feel like my life is going to last forever now. Like I used to think I'd live forever, and that used to be like a visceral feeling. Like I had this sense of immortality and endless possibilities, and I definitely don't feel like that anymore. I think the older you get, the corridor of life seems to kind of narrow. And
I remember you chatting to me years ago and saying that you would be hopeful, but by the time you reach the time of death, there will be eternal life. And there's no doubt that with science, not with God, but with science, it's likely that lifespan's going to increase and increase. And you were telling me that you'd read somewhere, and it may be true, that eventually we'll be able to keep the brain alive in some pickle jar so that you are still alive. And the only way you could die if somebody hits the pickle jar with a hammer or something. No, when I was younger, I was scared to death of death. Especially if you're religious, you're very scared of death because you've got the last judgment to go to as soon as you're dead, and you're off to hell or limbo or purgatory or some other stuff that they've dreamt up to scare you. But now, when you get to my age, dying doesn't worry you at all. You understand that when you're dead, it's great. Being dead's great. You don't know anything. You don't know you're dead. You're not in any pain. No, you don't regret. You have no regrets. You're not there. Death is fabulous. What you're worried about is the mode of death, and you're also worried about the pain that you leave behind. The only people that hurt when you're dead are the people that you've left behind. So don't worry about death, honestly. And I just hope this assisted dying bill gets in so that when life is really shit, I can see myself off nice and peacefully and lovely. I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we talk on, or have we gone? It's got a bit miserable, this, hasn't it?
No, I think it's good.